Hello everyone, I welcome you all on my channel. So today we are going to discuss the types of transport in sales. The sale also needs to transport of materials inside and also the outside of the cell. Why is it necessary for a cell to do the transport? The same like as in animals and as we have human beings, we need to be transported from one place to another place to fulfill the needs. Same as materials need to be transported inside the cell and outside the cell to fulfill the needs that they require. So there are two inside a cell. The first one is passive transport, another one is active transport. So we are going to start with the first passive transport. Passive transport is kind of transport in which a cell does not require the energy, the use of ATPs to expand on the cell membrane to transport the material inside the cell that it requires. This means a cell will not use its energy. The molecules will simultaneously move itself from outside of the cell. Do not require energy for transport of molecules. Cells move randomly. Cells will move in any direction without any particular one. Molecules move from an area of high concentration to any area of lower concentration. What does the area of higher concentration to the area of lower concentration mean in our practical life? I'm going to give you an example of the practical life. For example, if you are standing at a bus station and the bus station is filled with people, there are lots of people, and the bus that arrives is almost empty or just few people inside. Now the people will move from an area of high concentration from the bus station to an area of lower concentration into the bus where are only few people present. Now people will need no extra amount of energy to exert and to enter into the bus because bus is already empty or almost there are just few people. So people will enter there because there will be more space. They will need not to push anyone to get inside the bus. Same is the passive transport is the transport of molecules from an area of higher concentration, means outside of the cell there is more concentration of the molecules as compared to the inside of the cell membrane. So molecules will move without expenditure of any ATP or any kind of energy. There are three types of the passive transport. The one is diffusion, facilitated diffusion, and osmosis. We'll start with the diffusion. Diffusion is the movement of molecules from an area of higher concentration to an area of lower concentration, high to low. Diffusion continues until all molecules are evenly spaced unless equilibrium is reached. Just as here you can see, this is diffusion. This is happening across this cell membrane. From outside of the cell, molecules are moving towards inside the cell. There is higher concentration and there is lower concentration, and there is no amount of ATPs required as in the active transport. And in diffusion, we can see here there is no specific gate or pump is required as in the next type of passive transport that we are going to discuss. So the molecules will move from outside to the inside unless there is equilibrium, or we can say the molecules are in equal proportion. So now we'll discuss the next type. This is passive transport, but it is called facilitated diffusion. In facilitated diffusion, what we can see here, the transport of molecules is done through the specific gates or protein pumps, we can say. Here, these are moving through these special gates, but there is no ATP is used as in the active transport. So this is the main difference between the passive transport facilitated diffusion and the active transport. Now we'll discuss the next type of the transport, which is the first, let's have a look at this. Diffusion of specific particles through transport proteins found in membrane. Transport proteins are specific. They select only certain molecules to cross the membrane, transport larger or charged molecules. In cell membrane, there are many molecules which carry the charge minus or plus, which we also call the ions. So, through the specific proteins, only the charged particles could move without expending the energy within the kind of the facilitated diffusion, which is passive transport. Now, we'll discuss osmosis. Now we are going to discuss the osmosis. Osmosis is the third type of the passive transport. It is a movement of the molecules of water across the cell membrane. As the cell membrane or a human cell or any organism cell, say it also the plant cell or even the bacterial cell, 90% of the cell is made up of the water, and so the water also needs to be to transport in and out of the cell. So the osmosis is the kind of water molecules or the diffusion of water molecules across the cell membrane. And there is also concept of the solute and the solvent, and which creates the hypotonic and hypersonic environment. So, osmosis is diffusion of a solvent such as water through a semi-permeable membrane that separates two solutions of different concentration. This means there is different concentration of the molecules across the cell membrane, outside the cell membrane, and inside the cell membrane. So, it creates an environment of hypotonic and the hypertonic. So the movement of molecules will occur in two sections or in two types, and osmosis and exosmosis. The osmotic outflow of water into a cell when it is placed in a hypotonic solution. It is the outflow of water into a cell. And exosmosis is the osmotic outflow of water from a cell in which it is placed. It is called through a hypotonic solution. Now, we are going to discuss the other type of the transport, that is active transport. Active transport is the movement of molecules across a cell membrane in direction against their concentration. Example, moving from an area of lower concentration to an area of higher concentration that requires expenditure of energy. Energy is supplied by ATP. Here you can see active transport is movement of molecules from an area of lower concentration to an area of higher concentration. Here molecules are in very low concentration, and where they have to move there is higher concentration of molecules, so they need to exert the energy to get inside and make their space. So that energy is fulfilled by ATP. Same as example we will give about the active transport as we given in the passive transport. For example, if you are standing at a bus station, the bus station is empty, or say just few people are outside the bus or in the bus station. When the bus arrives, the bus is full with the people. Now, what the people will do outside of the bus, they will exert the pressure, they will exert the energy to get inside the cell. So, this movement will be from an area of lower concentration to an area of higher concentration. At the bus station, there is lower concentration of people. Inside the bus, there is higher concentration of people. To make their space inside the bus, they will exert energy to get inside. Same is into the active transport of the cell membrane. The outside of the cell there is very lower concentration of molecules as compared in comparison to the inside of the cell molecules. The molecules outside wants to get inside, so they will exert the pressure, and that pressure or energy is supplied by ATP. The types of active transport, just as passive transport has type, the active transport has also types. The first one is protein pumps. It is same as in the facilitated diffusion, but this is the active transport. What happens in a protein pump, just for example, this is a cell membrane, and there are specific gates, or we can say specific proteins channels are made. Through these, the only specific kind of molecules will cross the cell membrane. The protein pumps transport proteins that require energy to do work. Examples: sodium potassium pumps are important in nerve response. Now, the protein pumps are specific to their shape and specific to the gate that they will pass through, but also they will require energy. If their energy is not exerted or energy is not invested by the cell membrane, then the protein pumps will not open. And its example is given. Its example you can see is written here: sodium potassium pump in nerve response. Our brain cells are called neurons or nerves, and they communicate with each other through a call nerve response. And what happens here, the cell membrane exerts energy and the molecules move inside and outside of the cell, and the message is transported. This is that is the kind of the active transport. Another type of active transport is endocytosis. The process of importing materials in vesicles is called endocytosis. There are two types of endocytosis. The one is phagocytosis. Now, the other kind of the active transport is endocytosis. What happens in endocytosis? It is the simple words we can say, it is to get rid of the toxic materials, so the waste materials from inside the cells to the outside of the cell. Now, cell also has a mechanism of cleaning or to get rid of the toxic materials out of the cell. It happens in the form of active transport type endocytosis. And endocytosis type 1 is phagocytosis. Taking bulky materials into cell uses energy. Cell membrane enfolds around the food particles. It is called phagocytosis, called cell eating process. Forms food vacuoles and digests the food. This is how white blood cells eat bacteria. Now, what happens here? This is a type of endocytosis, phagocytosis. Now, phagocytosis is also called the eating process because in this type, the solid materials are taken into the vacuole, or you can say vesicle. This part is called, now cell membrane will enfold itself around the things that it has to get rid of this, and this will make the vesicle or a sac-like structure. During this, and then when it will make this, the cell will get rid of this material is coming towards the, or the material which has to be exported out outside of the cell or inside of the cell. This will come in contact with the cell membrane. Cell will form the vesicles of the sac-like structure, and in a form it will get finally the rid of it outside or inside of the cell. It will be transported, and when white blood cells, leukocytes, they get rid of bacteria which are harmful for us in this form, and this is also called the cell eating process. Another type of endocytosis is pinocytosis. It is the cell drinking process. This is also same as phagocytosis, but what happens here, the materials which has to be transported is liquid. This will also come in contact with the cell membrane surface. The cell membrane will enfold itself and it will form the vesicle. This vesicle will be eliminated outside or inside of the body wherever it is necessary. This was all about today's lecture. If you have any question regarding active transport and passive transport, please do let me know in the comment section. Till then, goodbye and subscribe. And please do subscribe, like, comment, and share. Thank you. Meet you in the next video.